So what's up? You're welcome to another episode, another installment of the Headspace. And today we're talking goats. Now, we started off with the PRO. We started off there, kind of establishing the groundworks, and then we moved on to Mandoza. Today, we're posing it in a different way. But before I get into all of that, Movie J, you know what it is. And today, I've got a very special partner with me. Headspace is about all things South African hip-hop. It's about bringing opinion to the forefront from people who've been in the culture, who love the culture, who study the culture, and who are activists of the culture. This right here, person next to me, is somebody who was part of pivotal movements in the Port Elizabeth, now Gqeberha area. Movements such as the Elements of Hip-Hop. Movements such as, what am I forgetting, Leah?
Positive expressions.
Positive expressions. Movements such as...
Bay Hip-Hop. Bay
Hip-Hop.
See, that's the thing.
I love it. So you can just see the avalanche of work that my partner today, Liya M, has contributed to the game. A local dominator of hip-hop culture, a DJ, and an all-round media specialist. Hence, she's on this Headspace today. So check her out. We're going to be talking hashtags and handles later on. But for now, just the grand introduction. Leah, what you want to say to the Headspace piece?
Can we like...
Okay. Shit.
Yes. He did their things. Because I was very excited. I was like, listen, I want to hear how you're going to introduce me.
I didn't do that. I didn't do. Awesome.
If I could stand, I would like standing ovation. But
I don't need to stand.
Alright. That's what it is.
He's saying back down, I don't need you to stand like as if we care what he thinks. But anyway,
today Takeza is background noise.
Making a special and shit, right?
We all know Takeza is still out here.
I know, I'm out here. I'm out here.
So yeah.
Man, what up? Liya M here. Thank you so much for the honor of being part of this very important, pivotal moment in our culture as hip-hop. In the, I can't say Q to save my life, so in the PE, don't laugh at me, I'm getting ready.
It's a serious thing.
Guys, and this decatela to the gods. But yeah, man, I'm so happy that I'm here. I'm so happy that I can share my 2 cents opinion in wherever, and I'm happy that I'm recognized as part of, the people that are active in the role. So, salute.
So, Sitara goats, Leah.
Yes.
Sitara greatest of all time.
So that's what goat means.
Yes.
Dimdala, guys. This is my third.
Oh yes, like trying to acronym.
Listen.
Yeah.
There was that guy who's rapping from this African.
Oh yeah. I think it was from Malawi. He always rap with the goat, actual goat, and you were like, yeah, I'm the goat, yeah.
Oh, so
yeah,
when Big Closer came around, that's when Big Closer came actually.
Yeah. He actually beat the style of that guy.
So Black, he wasn't the first artist to perform with a goat.
No.
But it looked like it was comedy thing. But nigga had chains and shit. Like, I'm the goat. I'm the goat.
With the goat.
You know what I'm talking about.
That's what I love about the Headspace. You learn every day. You learn every day. So we're talking goats, we're talking people, we're talking artists whose impact has elevated beyond their own genre, who've affected the everyday person, who have really impacted not only a hip-hop culture in particular, but the culture of music in general. And like I said, starting up a pro, you know what I mean? Yeah, that pro. So now, we felt it necessary because one of the most formidably well-known rappers in this game being South African hip-hop, is a brother by the name of Tumi.
Oh, I'm shocked that you bring someone who's alive.
It's important.
Yeah, it's important.
Kid.
Yeah.
He was like Mendoza, so I'm expecting someone like, okay, so
this is why this was so important, because yes, a lot of people were probably on some, we're going to bring another deceased soul. But we had to contextualize it and say we have living, breathing artists who have made great efforts. And the conversation, you know how heads are. We as heads all have our favorite rappers.
Yes, definitely.
And what this or these kind of conversations is about, it's separating your favorite from somebody who really is resoundingly great overall. Okay. Where, listen, you don't have to like the person, but you can't ignore the fact that their impact was major. Yeah. So today, we're asking the question, and this is the first time we're posing it as a question.
Okay.
We're not saying Tumi is the GOAT and asserting it, because it feels a little presumptuous. He's alive, and his impact is still to be measured. But as an artist who's been active for over what 20 years right now, we are in a position where we could look at his work thus far and say, is he one of the greatest that we've ever had in South Africa? So this is the question.
But does the alive part play a big, like, what effect does it actually play?
Actually, I always wanted to say this. Yeah, we need to give Ilanduga the artists their flowers while they're still alive. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is the first time that we, and it's gonna be ongoing. Expecting we're gonna be acknowledging, you know, artists who have already been deceased or something. But so that's why we're asking: is Tumi / Stogie T the GOAT? Yeah, we're dealing with two identities.
What's up with that?
Before we get to that,
no, we don't want to get in there. Yeah.
Let's start the story from
the beginning.
You bring up a great point, and I think Masita Leko Payan, there are artists that we can argue death elevated their stature.
Yes.
It happens a lot. It happens a lot where when people felt like they lost someone in a time where their work was so proficient and so prolific that it just feels like we've been robbed.
Do they feel like, because that's another thing, like, do they feel like they lost a person when their work was booming, or is it because we didn't recognize him until now he's gone, now everyone is like
interesting?
Do you understand, like everyone is like, yo, we need to, because you know with artists, for example, let me try and make a very basic example.
Sure.
Most artists, they pass away and they don't have money. They can't, you know, things. And now you find that everyone is going to jump on board with the other artists to try and push so that that person can have a, you know, a decent burial. Yes. And now that's when you see that a lot of people are catching on to the music. Some people didn't even know about the music. So that's why I'm like, is it because
of the work, or does the death itself?
It magnifies how people.
I think I have an answer for that, and we can talk about it.
Okay.
I think many artists died. This is life, guys. People die. We're all gonna die. So I'll make an example. We recently lost some of the most promising piano artists, Kila Kao.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So and when I've looked at the pattern of artists who have died, there's a tendency for artists whose work really was notable, where what the death does is that it creates a collective mourning that lasts longer than a week, longer than a year. People start to realize that, man, we really lost something incredible here. So if you would look at the impact of losing somebody like a Sibongile Khumalo, as compared to perhaps losing someone like a Kilakau, the catalog, the history will reflect the level of mourning. So people who are always labeled GOATs post and after their death are people whose memory lingers way after their actual death. We're talking about, just to make the most famous example, Tupac.
Yes.
Where we are in 2022, guys, and there are people who are still obsessed with Tupac. And yet we know many artists who died during his time, whose legacy has not resonated that longer. So there is something to be said about the work an artist does.
He's alive.
You know, that's how deep it becomes. Where people just feel like, no, man, it can't be. There must be some other grand plan behind it, especially if you look at track 2. So it goes back to the work. The work of the artist, I feel, speaks for their legacy when they have passed. Mandoza taught this to me, where I really felt like when he was alive, people were too busy dissing his English. And we all knew he made great music, but there were other things that pop journalism made us focus on, that we always kind of put him down as a man. He can't,
he's a black man.
You know, because he couldn't speak fluent English and all these other things. But after he passed, kwaphela yonke lo ntetho, or the mockery, and people started to say, yo, we actually lost a great one. People looked into the catalog. People looked at 50-50 Khotobangalakata Tornado. People actually said, guys, this was a brilliant artist.
Okay. Could it be that
you guys don't want to get into Tumi?
We'll get into it. Let's let it fester. I'm gonna act as a moderator.
As you talking, we might not get to Tumi. Maybe we'll see it next month.
No, we'll
get
to Tumi. I'll make sure we get to Tumi.
But as you're talking, I'm thinking, like, could it be that? And we're going to let's quickly go into the segment of Okilakau. And who's the other guy? Mpura. Was it Mpura?
Thank you, yes.
When that
Sorry, piano fans, I love hip hop.
Could it be that the people that were working with them at that specific time, that have their music, right, are the people that were not giving the niggas the credit that they deserved? Like, they're not shouting them enough. Because you know how we talk about this thing a lot, that producers, for example, are not given enough credit. And then when that producer does, you start hearing people saying, Ubani was actually doing this. Could it be that it's not necessarily that the new guys, because they don't have the collection of music to sustain them, their legacy longer. Or it could be that somewhere in the industry of music, as in art in general, though, there's this void that we struggle to give people, like Utakeza was saying, their flowers. Like, we struggle to recognize people.
Yeah.
And if you look at the stories of music, that people are always crying that someone stole my song, someone is not recognizing me. We don't give the recognition while they are alive, and then when they are dead, it's forceful that when we research on the people, we find out that person had something to play there and there and there and there.
Great segue into this, ne? To kind of answer you, how I look at that is, an artist is the sum total of their art. So you're talking about the business of art, right?
Yes.
And unfortunately, the business of art can become shady. The business of art can become fair.
Fair, yeah.
So, but ultimately, whatever background manipulating or mechanisms we're operating, the only thing we as the audience have to judge is what we hear. For instance, I hate the fact that I have international examples. Young artists who didn't yet have wide catalogs, like the XXXTentacion, Juice WRLD, who really were like at the cusp of coming into the game, had a couple of songs, maybe a trail of mixtape songs before they actually did a full-length formal EP. That was already enough for their core fan base to feel like, man, this person would have been great. And they have a resonating legacy that I think now will be proven by time. I've been noticing that people still talk about XXXTentacion. So it feels like in somebody like XXXTentacion, we have another Tupac, a Tupac maybe of the SoundCloud generation. And it all depends again on time and legacy. Hence, going into somebody like Tumi, that ultimately what we need to admit is that only time can tell the legacy of an artist. And now we're shining the spotlight on an artist who's had the time, who's had the resources, and who's had the skill and ability to shine in a South African audience. When we're talking about Tumi Molekane, he's incredible in the sense that he's a child of the diaspora, meaning that he didn't grow up in South Africa. Of having parents who were active in the struggle. He traveled a lot, moving from place to place, growing up in places like Tanzania, growing up in places like the United States, up until it brought him full circle back home, where he had cousins and relatives at Soweto, but at the very same time, he's this kid who can't fluently speak his own hometown. So the interesting thing about Tumi, and I'd love to hear your views on it, is that he's one of those artists who is in a sense an outsider in his own country, and that has been interesting to watch as a career ibhuma. His accent, his accessibility to the world comes from the fact that he's traveled due to his political migration, right? His model C vibe, his private school vibe, his globalist vibe, whatever you want to term it. A lot of artists will go, I want that, because crossing over to the world is difficult. And Tumi is one of the few South African artists who actually pioneered working with notable international acts. Saul Williams and other great people who we respect internationally in the hip-hop scope. And yet it feels like for everything he's achieved in traveling to places like Canada, in traveling to Europe, in doing the whole stint with Tumi and the Volume, emzini, which is the country in South Africa, he hasn't had the same impact. And when you mention Tumi to the average South African, and this is why we have to ask the question. Because if he was here with us, I know for a fact he'd say he's one of the greatest of all time. Because he would count the measure of artists he's put on.
And another thing, just before,
Please,
because I just googled now because he released his first solo album in 2002, which makes it that he's been in this game for 30 years.
Yeah.
30. Incredible.
Yeah. Or 20, I'm
What do you mean 30
20,
years?
I mean 20. Yeah.
Oh,
Fuck man, 20. I mean 20, fuck.
Yeah, for
Thank
20
God for
years.
Yeah, 20 years. So
Yeah,
2002, it's 2022 now. Practically 22 years ago. I mean 20 years ago he dropped it. Yeah. A dream led to this.
A whole 2 decades.
Yeah, 2
Now,
decades.
to bring this conversation.
And we're asking, is he the GOAT?
Exactly. Mamela ke Apa in the headspace, you know how wongumzi une rules zawo, une guidelines that govern how you adapt to this whole. Now in the headspace we have something that we've kind of made it custom and practice. We have something called the 5 principles of the headspace.
Okay.
Now these 5 principles are our, and when I say our, it's myself and Kaiser's principle of what makes a great artist in general,
Okay.
but particularly to the platform, a great hip-hop artist.
Okay.
Now the headspace says a GOAT must have originality.
Okay.
You must come into the game with your own thing.
Okay.
We must sense that, okay, he reminds me of so-and-so, but goddamn, he's bringing something
bringing
new.
something
She's
different.
bringing something
Yeah.
new, you know?
Yeah.
Originality. After that, a GOAT must have technical ability. And what do I mean by that? We're not talking about being an ultra lyricist. Somebody who understands how to blend their style to the instrumentals that work for them.
Delivery.
You find a lot of artists who have a lot of great potential, but it feels like they choose the wrong beats.
You don't know how to
It feels
deliver
like they don't know how to deliver.
Yeah.
They don't know how
Yeah.
to blend their style with something that works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a very technical skill to be able to know how to project your voice, know how to work your voice, and know what kind of instrumentals suit you
Just know how to
best.
create a song.
You know what I mean?
Or appeal.
And a song that appeals, but a song that really is true to you. It's not just a song because for trend's sake.
Yeah.
So we've got originality, we've got technical ability.
Okay.
Then we have mass appeal,
Okay.
and a GOAT.
And that's important.
A
Very
GOAT.
important.
A GOAT must be able to go beyond their small circle. It can't just be somebody, people who listen to a particular sound. No.
This has a niche market, but they need to.
Exactly. You have to be so undeniably talented at songwriting that you relate to a broad, and I mean super broad.
Even if you don't vibe with hip hop, but once you
But when you listen,
you're like, yay.
you're like, okay,
Definitely.
I'm not
Definitely.
a hip hop listener, but this is a nice song.
Yeah.
And then our 4th principle, after the Takeza,
Emotional depth.
I forget these things sometimes.
Yeah, it's emotional depth where
Emotional depth. Break it down.
where you have to, coming into the emotion.
How you relate to
yeah, how do you relate to people and
Don't be one-dimensional.
uba for ngumuntu weparty, you always always there. So you're not emotionally
A
depth.
broad
Yeah.
set of
Yeah,
emotions.
Yes.
different emotions.
Yeah.
Not just a limited
That's
set of
what's up.
set of emotions.
Yeah.
And our last one, what am I
The last one, what did we? Is it originality?
Yes.
We did technicality.
Mass
we did mass appeal.
emotional
we did
depth.
emotion. Obviously, the last one is consistency.
Consistency.
Yay! 20
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
Now we see he's one-on-one.
Yeah.
He's one-on-one. So
Yeah.
now let's measure.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's measure our dude.
Let's see.
Originality first. Originality.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Let's go back there because when you were talking originality, I was thinking like Tumi and the Volume, the band, right? Because it was not a popular thing for hip hop artists to actually perform.
But you could say he bought it. He took it from
The roots.
the roots.
But what I'm saying is we're talking
Okay,
about
yeah.
South African context.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not talking about
This is
international thing. We're talking in a South African context
This is
right now.
interesting.
That
Okay, yeah.
he did the band thing when no one else was actually doing it in South Africa
Okay.
at that specific
Okay.
time. Now
Yeah.
it might have not been an original idea, but he needed to deliver it in a South African context. And I'm going to go back to what you were saying that if we look at it, we can look at him as an outsider. Do you understand?
Oh,
He's
yes.
always his own home.
Thank you.
Yes.
So for him to be able to relate to South Africans and do do music that relates to South Africans, he needed to find a way, even if he's going to take an idea from someone else, but he needs to deliver it in a way that a South African person generally
could actually relate to. Yeah.
You know, so I looked at that original, because when I look at South African hip hop artists and I look at an artist that can actually get up there and vibe with a band, I think Tumi.
Right.
Yes.
I don't think anyone else.
Right.
You know, so that alone, I feel like we need to give that to him. Right?
I'm giving it to him too.
Oh yes, no, I give it to him too. Yeah. So
Tumi's got originality. I agree with that. As much as the band format has been done to death internationally, he took it, he localized it, and amongst, you know, it was beyond just the Joburg cool kid hippie, you know, bohemian coffee shop scene. It emerged out of those streets, and
some of
we
us,
all
like me, I got introduced to Tumi as Tumi in the Volume.
Exactly.
That's what captured me. I like music, I like sound, I like, you know. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool, that's good. Another thing to represent originality, what he just did on Instagram, the freestyle.
Freestyle Friday.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
That was dope. That opened spaces for a lot of people. That brought hip hop very close and personal, because Instagram is what everyone in South Africa is using right now.
Right.
It's a popular medium, you know, for popularity, for selling things, for, you know, all these things.
Right.
So when he brought that about, I started paying attention again. I was like, oh, okay. So I was kind of mad at the name change.
Yeah.
Right? And when that came in, I was like, oh, okay, he's still holding it down for him.
Let's talk about that briefly, as briefly as I can.
Yes.
You said something, and it's funny, but I feel like it's also indicative, and it reflects a general South African perception. We spoke about Tumi's accent, and you talk about Tumi being model-ish.
Yes.
Now, the large majority of South Africans tend to snub people who sound a little bit too sophisticated, who sound like they're the furthest thing from the streets, from the townships. And I feel like Tumi's reinvention, because the one thing Tumi felt, or I feel like as a fan and somebody who loves his music, that he lacked, and other rappers, particularly people like GoPro, had to try to
the Pro Kid.
City Pro.
Or Pro Kid.
No.
Proverb is proverb.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
Yes. So now I felt like Tumi for really he's been doing this from the days of music from my Kudai. When he did Bambezela with Bricks.
Yes.
He knew I have the heads. And I have songs from my Volume era that touch a couple of people who like the live shit.
Yes.
But I don't have the townships.
Definitely.
Yes. I don't have the streets. And I feel like he knew that up until he had the streets, he couldn't fully say he had achieved.
What
he's the greatest. Because MCs
and the attempts are evident from.
You know what I mean?
Yes, he did Nongwenya.
The Now Rich.
He did Ulando Bambezela with Uturix.
That's what we're saying now.
He did Visa with who?
Yes.
So Tumi has a consistent pattern of really trying to kill that Kasi market. Because guys, in South Africa is the Kasi market.
Yes, it is, definitely. And we're more indigenous, we're more, you know, cultural.
You know what I mean?
We want to relate to things. But I like what you said. You said when we were starting here that if he were to sit here, you know for a fact that he would say he's a GOAT.
Yeah.
And now you're like telling he's been trying to fit into this, you know, Kasi, you know, market thing. And do you think he has achieved that?
I feel like he hasn't. And I feel like this is one of the key reasons, from a personal perspective, listening to his music, why he just won't retire. He has
he's still trying.
He has an unceasing MC passion, because Tumi comes from the cipher. Tumi comes from that competitive kind of rapping. And when you come from that style of MCing, you want to beat people at their game, at their lane. And I feel like he's proven to us that he is undoubtedly and arguably one of our best lyricists, if not the best. Check out the Sway freestyle if you doubt this. Check out anything he's ever really rapped on.
Yeah.
He's an incredible...
In every fucking freestyle Friday.
Writer.
He is an incredible writer. He is.
Right.
Yeah.
So from the lyricist
So
perspective,
where are we now? Because you said he ticks the originality.
he ticks the originality, and I feel like right now we are slowly moving into his technicality.
Technicality, yes,
Yeah, well, we're moving into his
yes.
technicality.
Seems like he's not making it.
That I think that's why that's why I want him to, because Hansa was taking him back to when we opened this. He was like, I know for a fact that if he were to sit here, he would say he's the GOAT, right? And now if it doesn't, now we're talking about him now, right?
Yeah.
Or about the headspace now, this space here now. Doesn't matter what he thinks. So if he can't reach that, makes, you know, like that which South Africa
Hence the question, is he?
Yeah.
Yes, hence I was asking, do you think he's, you know, succeeding in doing that?
Yeah.
And your answer was no.
No.
So now we come to technicality now. We say, okay, so what's the problem?
The problem is because he is so global. Ngenxa ye upbringing yakhe, he doesn't have the immediate ability to relate to people in the townships. He doesn't have that kind of...
But do you think that someone who's been in South Africa for 20 years, releasing music for 20 years, as he was saying, from 2002 up until 2022, would have not been in a space now where, you know, he's
been trying?
No,
I think by the time he came back, he was already fully grown, or grown enough to have established fundamental tendencies of who he is. Tumi is not the kind of dude who can easily switch up and rap in a way where the vernacular, the tone and the style relates to a Kasi market.
Yeah.
And so I just think that's just something he can never win out. It's part of his identity. It's not even a bad thing, but when we come into the context of South Africa, it limits him.
So now couldn't we then give him the advice of saying, listen, stop trying, just do you, because then you clearly do you better.
Definitely.
And we're going back because what you're saying that because he was already an adult, right?
So you guys are saying he ticks the technicality, but it's
No.
Okay.
So what we're saying is that what I'm trying to come at here is that he was already an adult when he got here. He had already had an image of what he is or of who he is as an artist. So
and
now
how he comes across,
and that's what he wants to portray per se. So which will make it very difficult for him to adjust and adapt to what the appeal of a South African is. So now it couldn't be like a dope advice to give him and say, listen here, we appreciate you for you and what it is that you bring.
Exactly.
It's for you to try and extend yourself to become.
I'm sitting here thinking, actually, when you guys talk about the township market and all these things, I'm thinking, I'm looking at our 5 principles and I'm thinking,
I linked it to
this is not actually technicality. I think this is about mass appeal,
and
or even emotional depth. This is where it's it's a grey area between those.
And thank you for saying. That's what I was actually getting to. Sorry, that's what I was getting to say that we are trying to analyze him as a technical whatnot into something that he's not.
Because I think he's technical.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, into something that he's not. But if I were to be analyzing him in his technicality, I would look into how he writes his song, how he arranges his song, how he delivers his song, how he produces his song, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily what influences his songwriting.
Yeah.
And if I speak into what influences or him trying to
bridge the gap,
bridge a gap and whatnot, I would bring it into emotions. Like if we're talking about the emotions is that people need to relate into what you are saying.
Right.
Yeah. So that's emotional depth.
Yeah.
Here's where I could fit it into technicality as well, though, guys. I could fit it into technicality in the context of saying, Tumi is an artist who understands his strength. His strength is his lyrical ability.
Yes.
Multi-syllable approach, metaphors, punchlines, wordplay.
Yes.
He's got the whole shebang.
Yes.
And as a result, the kind of instrumentals that suit him are instrumentals that accentuate that.
Yes.
He's so great with the band because the rapid improvised structure of a band allowed him to take this kind of illustrative style to different places.
Yeah.
And where personally as a fan, and I think I felt this sentiment from a lot of people who moved away from Tumi's music and they felt like, yeah, he sold out, is when he started to go for a more commercial sound. Because now, here was a guy who was telling us about the people, the beautiful people and equally proud people, who was really observably militant, who was about his pro-black political slant. He did not digest us into this other side of him. He simply jumped from Amandla to to let's get some bitches.
I was like magic's magic.
Yeah.
Right there.
And this almost like abrupt sense, the switch came with the kind of beats where if you're a Tumi and the volume, or a Tumi
fan,
or a Tao of Tumi, music from my good eye Tumi, a dream led to this fan, you'll be shell shocked, because he's now in a place where it feels like he is trying to be closer to Rick Ross than a Black Thought. And you would have associated Tumi in your mind with somebody like a Black Thought, with somebody like a Common, with somebody like a Mos Def, and now all of a sudden he's naming himself after a cigar. You know, like and he's talking about luxury. And he's in a video with Nadia Nakai buying expensive brands.
But for someone who has worked for 20 years, do you understand what I'm saying? Trying to build what he has built, is he not allowed?
I'm not saying he ain't allowed to do that shit. I'm saying what happened was, because he was so focused in building, he lacked emotional depth, or rather, he lacked. I'd say that he lacked emotional depth.
Emotional depth,
because he imprisoned himself in the conscious rapper construct.
And now he didn't prepare us, because remember, I said that shit when I walked in here. I said, listen, I was mad at the nigga when he went like Stogie T and shit, but then
I was also, because I was a Tumi fan.
You understand? But the moment I started following him and I started listening, like, in fact, nigga still has the pen game, as you know.
The pen game is still there
and everything. But then now I think, as much as we talk about the emotional thing, I think you touched also on the mass appeal situation. Thing. Couldn't it be that now the direction of music is moving in that manner?
Trying to get to the mass appeal.
Okay, guys, I'll be really quick with this. There's a song that he did with MT. By Any Means, right?
Yes.
And this might only be my opinion. I really feel like when Tumi is rapping on these current 808s, when he's rapping on these kind of open ambient, sparse, rapid paced drums that a Nasty C would master. He's nice, but there's just something that sounds awkward about it. It sounds like that old guy who's friends with the young kids and will buy them all drinks. But when he's sitting at the table, nobody wants to be alone with him because they know this guy is actually too old to be here.
With the punchline.
You know, like, I'm sorry. I'm serious. The whole Stogie T saga has felt like a grown man trying.
Wait, you're calling it a saga? Has it stopped? Did he change it?
It's still going.
It's still going.
The saga continues.
The saga continues.
The whole Stogie T saga feels like a grown man trying to
fit in,
to shove himself into, you went there, into a current sound that is now dominant.
And a lot of them are trying to do that.
He's not the only one. And this is where we have to talk about the importance of artistic self-awareness and the fact that, look,
you gotta know who you are.
You gotta know. You gotta know who you are,
and be unapologetic about it. Because I feel like he's worked for 20. There was no need for him to do that.
To do that shit.
And I think I agree with. There was no need for him to do that because you've worked so hard.
Let me play.
This long.
Can I play if I can do devil's advocate here?
Yes.
So you've got a guy here. You know, he's been projecting himself as this conscious. But maybe he's like, truly him. He's actually about that club life, and
it's not just you.
Club life and all that, getting bitches, like all that shit. And he says he's been smoking cigars over a long time. But it's something like
smoking cigars. I perform a baseline.
So I'm saying now he's like, hey, what am I? When am I gonna show people about my true self? So maybe he was an imposter when he was a.
So we might never know. So I think I get it. I think what that kid is trying to say here is that, listen, maybe the nigga is like, listen, I've been giving you guys whatever it is that I've been giving you that I feel like you guys.
I thought you wanted to know.
Yes. Now I've worked so hard. I am done with it. I am just going to be doing whatever it is that I want to do type of situation.
And maybe something that he probably wanted to do in the first place.
But
then the fault is really his. Because that means that from the get-go, he wasn't fully honest with himself as an artist. He subjected certain parts of his story that he wanted to talk about to fit into, back then, the conscious label, because he felt like maybe he had more appeal there.
But I feel like he had to, because he was this exiled child.
Had to?
Because yes, like listen. But Vijay, listen, as you were saying, he was an outsider in, right? And during that time that he came in, South Africa was very political because of
so he had to come in and be like Amandla too.
So now his influence of rap and hip hop then was, do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying? That's what we listen to. Our 90s hip hop were dilated people, were
yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was our hip hop, your common. That's what Black Thought, as you mentioned. That's what we were prone to.
I feel like the thing about Tumi, as an artist, you have to be straight from the get-go about being as broad as you can. And him being exclusively conscious worked for who he was then, but it imprisoned his emotional depth. And now he felt that, he saw it, and that's why he kind of took us through shock therapy. And then all of a sudden, he's smoking cigars and living the lavish life.
The punchlines.
Yeah. And we just didn't see it coming. And I felt like it's more his accountability than ours. So I really wouldn't give him emotional depth.
Let me like.
So emotional depth.
He lacks a depth.
I think we're gonna, because I don't think we've actually given the scores to everything else, but I think we're gonna do that now.
Okay, cool.
I just have a quick question. So are you telling me that if Utumi had actually prepared us for the change that he was about to do to Stogie T, you would have been
absolutely
more accepting of it.
Absolutely.
So the issue is not necessarily the content in the music that he's bringing as Stogie T, but it's generally that you
the
felt
abruptness.
uncomfortable from being. That's selfish.
How?
Like,
so now we
no, talk to me.
Because to me, it's like if this context that you're bringing would have been more acceptable to me if you were coming to me to say that, listen, the music that he did from, being Tumi that we knew, the conscious one, and the music that he's doing from being Stogie T is totally different, and it's unacceptable, and it's weaker, or it's not the same as whatnot. But if that
in the context of the music, yes.
That's what because I feel like what we are discussing here is the context of what he has brought forward, not necessarily what brought his decisions and how he decided to take his decision.
No, but I am also talking about the music.
So
I am saying that because of the direction he took to now suddenly expose all of these other aspects, the fact that he is aggressive, he is capitalist. Yeah, but he's
a capitalist.
Yeah, all his albums are thoroughly capitalistic. Okay. The pursuit of money and luxury is a capitalist desire.
Yes,
it fits in no context. So this is strange. But I also felt like the sonic landscape he used to paint this new Tumi was foreign. Okay. He now was in a place where, he wants to broaden his appeal. He realized the limitations of what he did before. But now, he was too old to play catch-up.
But before we move on, can't we say now, if you're saying he's a capitalist based on what he's doing because he needs to obtain the money, right? And bring the wealth. Now that he got to a level where he actually obtained the money and he has the wealth, now you just want to spend the wealth.
So, look, the thing is,
that's why his music, changed now. Now he's at a stage where he's spending the wealth rather than actually getting
great angle here. The thing is, capitalism does not have to be contradictory to revolution. You can still be the guy that says, listen, I will use my long ass money to do this, to bring back to the community, to do this and then this. I won't name examples of artists for the sake of time, but here's my thing with Tumi, is I felt like, again, I'm going back to this thing. Listen, Liya.
I'm listening.
Very hard. No, listen. From the get-go, what an artist does when they create music is that they create an identity. And that identity is what people will be drawn by. The good music is there, but people who will deeply relate and identify with the artist are people who relate to what this person generally talks about.
Yeah.
You talk about Sade, you talk about somebody who talks about agony and the pain of life, but in a way that comforts you.
Yeah.
It would shock people if Sade would suddenly talk about how she's in need of dick,
Like
and you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
We know Sade is a woman,
Yeah.
but we know that her music has focused on an emotional internal journey. This is an example. So an artist creates
how they want to be
for the lack of a better word, an artist creates a lane for themselves when they grow artistically. And you have to, for the sake of your artistic growth, make sure you make that lane as broad as broad as possible.
Sell-out comes
exactly. Make sure that you open the gate with all of yourself.
So you'll feel like he set parameters for himself when he was starting.
Thank you.
Now when he gets to want to expand to something else,
we're like,
but you set the parameters yourself.
Exactly.
Like, okay. No. We're gonna leave it there because
emotional depth.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Let's get back. So we have, what did you say? We have the originality. We gave it to him. We have the
technicality. We give it to him.
We give it to him.
Yeah, we give it to him. He's got.
We have the emotional depth.
He doesn't have the emotional depth.
I can't give him emotional depth because as much as he's spoken about almost everything he's felt, he first spoke about it in the context.
Haven't you felt anything from his songs though?
I felt a lot. Here's where
come on,
can I listen?
Yeah.
Can I quite? I'll quickly.
Broke people.
I promise I won't be long. Oh my God.
Okay.
Do we have the time?
Okay.
Because even you just.
We're gonna have the time. Niggas, prepare yourself for a 1 hour segment from this session.
You touched me on a soft spot.
Yeah.
On broke people. The bridge goes, I see broke people, starving people. He is looking at people as an observer. I hated that song because Tumi is pointing at struggle.
It's not what he is.
He's not what he is. It feels like a white person on a tour bus saying, "Oh, I see broke people."
And that's what I wanted to get into with the capitalism thing, because we are anti-capitalist. Thank you so much. We are very anti-capitalist.
I know I am.
Thank you so much. So now if you sell, I don't even know how to be buy into a capitalist nigga.
The episode is not long enough for that.
Yeah, I know, but it's something else. But exactly what I'm saying is, if he's selling into the capitalist, vision and whatnot that he was going for, then we can't necessarily speak of him as a revolutionary. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
We can't necessarily speak of him as a vanguard of, do you understand what I'm saying, of fighting.
You know what this feels like?
Yes.
It feels like that relationship you're in as a person, where somebody goes to all the things you like. They take you to all the places you like. They like all the music, and then you find out that this person
is dying.
Then you find out during the course of this relationship, after
you guys are killing me.
After 5 years, after 5 to 10 years of being with this person,
I love Tumi.
You find out that
we love him also.
You find out that in secret he actually binges on the things he really enjoys, because he's been pretending to be all these things for you. And he might have pretended long enough.
I have a track to back that shit up. There's a track by Common, Funky, Everything Funky. That's
I remember.
Do you know the end of that track when there's a lady, a sister that comes to Common to speak to him on the video to say, "Oh, I love how you portray black women and you respect."
Oh, okay,
and the bitch then comes and he's like, "Yo, get back to the work. Why are you not standing in the streets and whatnot?" So now, like, you portraying this, but then you're not
exactly.
Fuck you in the punchline.
Because Common and Tumi are like in that way. They
and we're not saying Common is, we're just referencing to the song.
They trap
the video.
An artist like Common could easily be compared to Tumi, because they trap themselves in a certain kind of content, whereas we know he's a grown-ass man with a dimension of emotions, but he chose not to address them, and hence he limited his emotional depth to crucial issues of social importance and value. And then now you spring it up on us that, oh, by the way, guys, I also get aroused. I also like money. I also want nice things. You know, and now we're like, but you should have said that from the beginning.
So that we just take it.
We would have never hated you, but now we feel wrong.
So your feelings are hurt.
You know, not that deep. Not that deep. not that deep, but I'll admit, yes, because I feel as a listener and as somebody who was a fan and probably maybe still am, I feel robbed by an artist who portrayed a certain element of themselves, and then all of a sudden now I have to come to grips with the fact that because of what he did in the past, now he's almost or what's the term? Now he's overcompensating for not doing it before. Now he's doing nothing else but this.
That,
you know, or almost.
So maybe if he would have came and introduced maybe 2 songs that are more into this, and then have the songs the recognizable songs of what it is.
After people, you give us Yvonne. After Yvonne, talk about how I want money too. My mom is in the ANC. I'm not the brokest of people. I have money. I'm what some people would consider a cheese boy. This is why I say Tumi cannot have emotional depth. After all of what he said, I still don't get the sense of who he is as a person.
Okay.
We know
you can't, and emotional things as you speak about real issues that real people could recognize.
I feel like he has appealed to certain emotions, but as a person, as a man, he has not been.
We have not been related. Like we have not related.
Exactly.
To what he.
Take for instance, can I say one last thing?
Okay.
Take an artist like a Kendrick or a Tupac, or a Drake even. We love these artists because they do a certain sound we identify with, but within that scope, it's broad. Drake is a commercial artist who does mostly music for the clubs, but he has songs in every album that are intimate. That you can't play in the club. He talks about his life. He talks about.
And it's a nigga that brought the stigma against him.
Yes. He talks about his mistakes. So that's the mark of greatness. Because we're talking about goals.
Who's this? I was listening to this track now. J. Cole on I Let Nas Down.
Exactly.
And how Nas come in also this one.
One of the greatest moments in hip hop.
They speak about the emotions of what he felt.
He felt when his favorite rapper told him he didn't like his album.
When he says that, and that's like, and he put that in his song
from the get-go.
No, I get you. So emotional, we ain't giving him.
You can't give it to him.
Okay, what's the 4th one?
No. We on the 5th one.
No, we have the mess.
No, in Mess Appeal, we know he didn't. It's a massive failure.
We were just putting it there.
Can I elaborate briefly?
Okay.
The reason why I feel he doesn't get Mass Appeal, a lot of people will say, but he's been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
He's been doing it for 20 years for a particular market.
Yes, so there's a niche market.
Not for everyone.
There's still people who don't know shit about
Yes,
Tumi
who don't even, and you speak to people like, Tumi, like for example, me, I'm a DJ.
Yeah.
I do hip hop and reggae, but I also do house and clubs. And now I can't go to, hence my struggle in playing hip hop. Old school hip hop, so I can't go into playing hip hop in clubs because most people don't know if I talk about dialect people, if I talk about Mini Mac, if I talk about cars, if I release bass, if I I speak about all these people, I want to play such people. No one can relate to it. So I fully get that. And then the final
last one,
number 5,
consistency.
Has he been consistent?
Now again, people will go 20 years.
20 years. That was my initial thing. 20 years has been consistent. He's been able to release music.
Well, he's been consistent in releasing music.
But has he been consistent in terms of the impact?
Yes. Yes.
The longevity of it all, the memorability of it all. Because I think consistency is one that actually covers all the other 4 parts that we've been speaking about.
Okay. Yes. Now, here it gets a little bit tricky because some would say, no, he doesn't have the consistency because in the years that he's been active, not every project that he has done has appealed to a broad level. And not
is there a project that actually has appealed to the broader?
No.
No.
And out of all the projects he has done, there hasn't been a sense of, because when we talk about consistency, we talk about being good for a long time.
Yes.
We talk about being...
We're talking about that classic shit.
And I don't think we can describe Tumi as somebody who's been good for a long time.
Okay, which classic song, which classic albums where you could say...
Obviously, Live at the Baseline.
Live at the Baseline. A Dream Led to This.
Yes, definitely.
A Dream Led to This is good, but I would...
But there's certain tracks.
Yeah, and A Dream Led to This is a hardcore hip hop head's cult.
Yes, like it's our
you can't be a Tumi fan without knowing A Dream Led to This. Okay.
And Music from My Good Eye.
Yes.
A Return of the King. What's the one he did with the lambs going to the slaughter?
Dawn of the Sheep.
Yes.
What? Yeah. Okay. That was the last one he did.
His projects have appealed to a base of people who like rapping.
Yes.
But the everyday listener
of music
has
not
connected. And his songwriting can be good, but he has not. There's not one Tumi song that you can say set
this song was
set most of South Africa.
Like what this guy what's this boy Daka? Sorry to call you a boy, but Daka, what's Questa?
Yeah,
Questa is very good to release tracks that
speak to
the entire
general
South Africa would wanna vibe to.
Exactly.
Whether you like hip hop, you vibe with rap, or you don't. But he's been consistent in that manner that there's always whatever project that he works in, there's a track that the general masses of South Africa are going to vibe to. Whether you like hip hop, whether you're an old granny, whatnot.
So here's what I think we can conclude.
Yes.
Tumi is great because he was literally the first artist to show us how to fit into the context of live performing. He's literally one of probably the only rapper who's been able to cross over borders so easily. Because of what we mentioned before, he's got more global appeal than he does with local appeal. But this is a conversation
that we're gonna might come back.
This is a conversation about his impact in South Africa. And if
Just Jay is the Empire of Sheep.
Empire of Sheep, thank you.
Oh, the album,
yes. And so this is what makes Tumi's legacy such a lesson to all of us, is that he's an artist who has been able to succeed on a global level, but unfortunately, because of who he is, he hasn't been able to have the same kind of
penetrate to Africa as he should.
So if we say, is Tumi one of the most important artists that have hip hop artists that have ever graced South Africa? Yes.
No doubt. But we all agree on that. Unanimously.
But is Tumi the greatest of all time? One of the greatest of all time in South Africa's hip hop lineage? It'll have to be a resounding no. Because these are two conversations. One is a globalist conversation. One is a local conversation. And you know the saying how think local, act global.
Act globally, yeah.
And Tumi has been able to act global.
But he cannot
think locally.
He cannot to save his life.
So basically what these niggas are saying here is that Tumi ain't no GOAT.
I love you, Tumi, but you are not there.
So he only takes two on our principles.
On our principles.
So it's technicality and originality.
And this is solely what
the headspace of people. Yes. This is it.
Based on the conversations we had. So you talk to us, you tell us what it is. We might have a follow-up. If you feel like, hey, I have different views that I want to bring up, come through.
I know this is going to be controversial.
Yes, come through, tell us. But yeah, he only took two, so we can't give him the GOAT.
Liam?
Yeah.
I'm the GOAT.
We've had an amazing conversation. I came into this conversation with a lot of opinions, but I learned so much.
Yeah.
I learned that there is an important difference between importance and greatness.
Yes.
So guys, that's been the conclusion. Tumi is important, but we can't say he's
great. And he's important for the culture.
He's important
for the culture. We look up to him. He's been opening doors. He's created trends, and he's still going to try to do that. And we support him. We're going to continue buying.
And I'm his biggest fan, though.
Yes.
Yeah, behind the cam.
The back is your biggest fan. We all. I think he is also.
I thought
this has been a traumatizing episode.
I'm so fan here.
And it's good that I was not in front of the camera, you know.
Emotional. So while Kaiser and VJ Nakasa are trying to be going out there and heal.
I've already.
Nah, he healed a long time ago. Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me in the space. I learned a lot. And it's always nice to know that you actually have a lot to offer and, to have this conversation. So let's have more of this. There you go.
Hopefully we get Liya M again on
subscribers.
Definitely coming through again, and I'm going to give you like a nicer set there. I know you like set up the setup for that.
Right. Yeah. Our people, talk to us about what you thought about the conversation. Talk to us about what you think about between the chemistry between Liya and your boy. And talk to us if you really agree with us. If you don't agree with us,
tell us anyway.
It's a conversation. We love you and we do this for you. It's VJ.
Liya M here. It's very fucking hot in here.
We out.